Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Train Room. Today, this is sort of the follow-up to our episode 1, where in 1958, we were given by our rich aunt maybe 250 bucks, okay? But we're going back in time with a little bit of knowledge this time. Hey, I know what I'm gonna buy, all right? So we have 1958 catalog, we have $250. $250 in 1958 was equivalent of over $2,000 worth of buying power. So we should be able to get some really good trains. Man, I am looking forward to that too. With the knowledge I know now, there's got to be some stuff in here that I'm going to get that's going to be incredible. I am looking forward to that. This is episode 2 of Buying as a Collector in 1958, and that's coming your way.
The wonderful thing about this equipment is that you're in control. Yep, on the Lionel line, you're the boss. Tell Mom and Dad you want a Lionel electric train, the Christmas present that lets you be the boss. Remember the name? Lionel.
So we're back, and this is our 1958 catalog, and we're going to look through this now with 2024 eyes. In other words, as a collector, what in here would I want to buy out of the consumer catalog? A couple strategies when I was thinking about how I was going to address this. The first is I'm just going to go page by page and look at each item and see if there's something that just jumps off and makes sense to just put on the list. Doesn't mean it's going to end up on the final list, but it's worth putting on there based on my experience and the things that I collect, as well as talking with other fellow collectors. There may be a few sets that I kind of feel are tougher to come by, as well as a few pieces. And then when we get through this, we'll try and figure out what we have left and shave it down in the second part. So let's get through this, okay? All right, so as we go to the first page here, this is sort of the starter sets here too. And typically 027 or starter set stuff doesn't have a whole lot of rare stuff in it. And to be honest with you, the first page, nothing on there terribly crazy. Separate sale 249 can sometimes be tough to come by. I'll give you that, but I'm going to kind of pass on that for now, okay? All right, so we're going to go to the next page here. These, if you remember, I ended up with this set when I bought it as a kid, and there's some really desirable pieces in here too, but nothing that's necessarily unattainable. Same thing, we'll have these conversations in the future. A 1625 master carton, which you'd be able to buy if you bought it separate sale, might be a little tough, but I'm going to hold off for now with any of these sets because they made these in high numbers. So as we get to the next page here, this one has some a little bit more interesting stuff here, okay? The first is, as far as the set's concerned, it's a good set, but not one that you can't find. It was made in high numbers, but there's 2 other items on here. A lot of times in the background is where some of the stuff for a particular year might be a little bit harder to come by. One of those are going to be these 2 engines right here. All right, the 611 and the 613. What I'm going to recommend we do is I'm going to put these on as if I'm buying them separate sale. They were available that way. The 613 Union Pacific Diesel for $21.50 and the number 611 Jersey Central Diesel for $21.50. Now we're putting these on. They may or may not stay on my list, but buying these or finding them boxed for separate sale, because typically these would not come, or if they did come boxed, it was a tough box to come by. So from a collector standpoint, these are things people like. Nothing else on this page necessarily jumps out. This page, kind of same thing. Good little starter set, great stuff in there too. These, they made in high numbers. I love the fire car, but again, from a collector standpoint too, not exactly rare. This page is interesting too because it shows and highlights a great set, but it shows some of the other things that were available in 1958 for separate sale. All right, and those include a Bud car to add, as well as these box cars right here. Now, these are actually pretty collectible because they were not available normally in sets that were available out of the consumer catalog in 1958. This is the So and the Monon operating box car, and so I'm going to add these 2 to our list. Okay, they may not make the final cut, but we're going to put them on there to start off with. So this is the 3494-625 Sioux. All right, and then we also have the 3494-550 Monon animated boxcar. Both of them sold for $7.95, and those are going to make our list. 2 other things on this page that we want to talk about. The first is the 625. I'm going to put it on the list. This is kind of a carryover from 57, but buying this car or boxed separate sale is really tough. So if we ordered separate sale, we may get the rare box that comes with it. So that would make sense to put on our list the 625, which when you look over here is the Lehigh Valley Diesel for $18.95. So this is going to go on our list. Another note is these 205s. I gotta tell you, the Missouri Pacific 205s Alcos, when you buy them separate sale, they usually come in their own little boxes and master cartons. These typically, when they came in sets, did not come boxed at all. But to be honest with you, there has yet to be, and I haven't seen it or know about, a 205 master carton. If there is, I would love to see it, but I don't think it existed. So if you were to ask your dealer, hey, I want a set of 205s, I think you'd end up getting them wrapped in paper, not with the boxes. And to be honest with you, that's the same as just getting regular ones. So there's nothing really from a collector standpoint that I think you'd get if you ordered these separate sale. So I'm going to leave these off the list for that very reason. As we go to the next page here, this is kind of where things start getting a little more interesting, okay? So you've got a nice little set here, good stuff here, and then you've got this the girl set, okay? This is set 1587S, and this is the Lady Lionel for $49.95. I'm going to put this on the list because, again, this is a collector favorite for a couple reasons. One, it's a little bit of an oddball. They didn't really sell well, which makes them collectible. And really, if you were to break it down, each and every one of these cars is actually pretty desirable from a collectible standpoint. So it's a set that's worthwhile putting on your list. You get a lot of bang for your $49.95. Now this particular page here has the Wabash coming at you too with some pretty cars that you can find. Nothing terribly unusual there too. But this is where we're going to actually talk about one of the other sets we're going to put on our list. These sets, like this set here, the 1600 with the 216 Alco, the REA car, and two passenger cars, is a pretty tough set for an 027 set, which is the 3-car Burlington. It's sold for $39.95. Okay, now this particular set is one that just doesn't pop up very often, and we'll talk about this later, but this car right here is unique to this set. Even though you could find the 6572, the one that was included in the set is a little more unique. We're going to come talk about that, I think, later when we discuss whether or not we keep this set on our list, but we are going to put it on. So we're going to go to the next page here. This is a beautiful set of the 208s here. I like that a lot. And a couple other cars here. I think that's a great idea. I don't see anything jumping out necessarily as far as any individual pieces. So far, so good. And then we're going to come to this page here. This is the 1608W. This is those New Havens. Man, these 209s are gorgeous, great set. And this set, the 1608W, is known to be a little bit of a tough set from an 027 side of it. So we're going to put this on our list as well. This is the 1608W 4-car Merchants Limited, and it's retailed for $65. Okay, so we got $65 adding to our list. Our list is getting pretty big pretty fast, but there's some really interesting stuff here too. Now, one strategy we may employ is if we decide not to keep the whole set, I may pull back, take the set off the list, and maybe get the 209 separate sale in their master carton. That might be a good trade-off for our value if we need to have a little extra cash. So now we're getting into the Supero sets, which are really fantastic. Again, I always love this red set, pretty cool too. This is kind of a little bit of a collector favorite here too, and this is one of the tougher of the motorized units. So I'm going to add a 56 M&SL. This is the little Mine Loco for $12.95. Let's put that on our list. This is a tough little piece. They're available, but I like this piece and always have. From a collector standpoint, it's pretty cool. When it comes to sets, I got to tell you, one of the rare sets that are out there is this little booger right here, okay? This is a 3-car set of the Bud cars, okay? Now, it's set 2502W, which is a Supero rail diesel commuter set, and it went for $59.95. That's a pretty significant amount of money for 3 cars that really didn't have a whole lot of action. They were just motorized passenger cars. So this is a set known to not necessarily have sold well and is very desirable. So it's going to be kind of on our list. We'll see if it makes the final cut. This is a great set here. This is the Super O Timberland Special. I've always had an affinity for this set. There isn't anything terribly rare in this set. This car right here, if there were anything that I'd pick out of it, and that's not necessarily a bad strategy to go, would be this piece right here. This is the 6536 M&SL hopper. And I'm going to add that to our list just as an individual car. It may not make the final cut, but I've always liked that. And they're pretty tough to come by because it's a tough little box. And it's sold for $4.95. This is a really great set, this 2505W. This is the Virginian set. There really isn't necessarily any of the cars here from a collector standpoint that people just can't get enough of. So there's nothing really with this particular set I think that jumps out that should make our list from a collector side, even though it is a great set. This page is loaded with really interesting stuff, okay? The first is this set, while it's a great set, didn't sell very well, but it's a very nice set and really one of the tougher ones to come by. But the real showstopper is this set up here for two reasons. One, it's got the cool Virginian, but it also has two cars in it that are actually very, very desirable. The first is the 6556. This is the Katie stock car, as well as, not shown very well, but in the very back, right coming out of this tunnel, is a 6427-60, which is the Virginian caboose, porthole caboose, only available in 1958 and only found in this particular set or separate sale. So this set as a whole actually gets quite a few, has quite a few really great pieces in it. So from a collector standpoint, it's desirable, has some desirable pieces in it. So we're going to put this on the list, the 2513, which is the 6-car Virginian set, and it sells for $69.95. So it may not make the final cut, and if we do or pull these off, I want to add these two cars to the mix. Okay, so one way or the other, that's our plan. Now, hidden on this page is actually one of the rarest pieces that would have been available in 1959. And it's right here in the top left-hand corner. You notice how you have the mountains back here, and then you have this tunnel, but there's actually a piece that they're highlighting right here, which is the number 119 tunnel. Now, the 119 tunnel was available for 2 years, 57 and 58, I believe, okay? And so it was basically a formed plastic tunnel. They were very fragile. They did make them in high numbers, but not many survived. This is a collector favorite, so I'm going to add the 119 tunnel to our list for $2.95. So on this page, got some really cool pieces, some really tough ones here too, and this is nice. One way or the other, I'm going to try and see if we can keep that on the list. It's not a high dollar item, so we should be able to do so, but this right here is a collector favorite. All right, so again, really a beautiful layout here with the 2242 New Havens. None of these are necessarily rare, but these are really desirable engines. I really like that. But what also they highlight is they've got these two engines here. So hey, from a separate sales standpoint, are these two items we'd want? And so at the moment, I would say no. I think they're all findable. You can find a 736. You can find a 2360. The 736, they did have some production in 1958. So separate sale in his MasterCard would be very desirable. So what I'm going to recommend let's put this one on the list. So we're going to add a 736, just separate sale, seeing if we can pick it up in its MasterCard, and it was available for $47.50. So that's a lot of money. May or may not make our final cut, but I like the idea of putting that on our list if we're buying. All right, next page here, again, an absolutely fantastic set, the 2515 WS mainliner. It's got some really great cars here. Again, nothing really is groundbreaking here too. And actually, I'm going to kind of go back to what we've been doing a little bit before, is saying, hey, if I were going to buy something separate sale, this is a very desirable item, and you don't find them very often in master cartons. As a matter of fact, they go big when you see these pop up at auction. So as one of the things I'm going to put on my list is going to be a 646 LTS, which is, I'm buying this engine separate sale. It sells for $45. Again, that's a pretty significant sum that's going to make it to on our initial list. Okay. Otherwise, a couple really great pieces here. Again, nothing that really kind of otherwise jumps out that I feel like needs to make it on the list. We're still in the Super O section with some absolutely fantastic sets, and new for 58 was this Penzi EP5. So they had two sets associated with that. This is just a freight set. You see these a little more often, but actually one of the more desirable sets from a rarity standpoint is this set here. It didn't sell very well. It's just a Penzi with a couple of passenger cars, and they're not even Penzi passenger cars. They're just regular passenger cars. So because of that, it wasn't necessarily a high seller. They didn't make a ton of them, and I think this is a really tough set. So it's going to go initially on our list. So we're going to put this set right here, which is the 2518W Super O Penzi electric passenger train for $75. Let's make that on our list. There's a couple other items here too. I think these were just listed to get rid of excess stock. They are available. This Milwaukee Road is a tough one, but I'm going to hold off for the time being. All right, so as we look at the Rio Grande, this is just gorgeous. I mean, what kid wouldn't want this set? It's got a lot of action, but there really aren't necessarily cars in here of any consequence too. Yes, there's a rare version of the Rio Grande, but as we kind of mentioned, if I were just to order a Rio Grande, I would be most likely handed the common version. So that's not necessarily going to make our collector list, being able to order it directly out of the catalog the way that you'd want it. So some really good stuff here, but we're going to go on to the next page. This Virginian, again, beautiful engine. Really like this. A lot of action cars. This is just a very desirable set. A couple other items here, but nothing, again, jumps out that you can't find. So there's really anything on this page either that you can't do without from a collector standpoint. The next sets here, again, are these beautiful J sets, okay? The 2525 WS and the 2521 WS. Now, as a kid, had to have this set, and it totally made sense to do so, and no-brainer all day long, okay? All right, but from a collector standpoint, the 2525 WS is the bee's knees, if you were to call it that, okay? You've got a 746, you got two accessories, you got a bunch of operating cars, a crane, you name it. And it came with the N&W caboose here, which was specific to this set as well. So these are very desirable sets. They made them in reasonable numbers, but they are difficult to find just because of how expensive they were. And we're putting this on the list at $100. Okay, excellent addition. Hopefully we'll be able to keep it in our budget. And then, of course, absolutely beautiful Santa Fe sets, a passenger and a freight here too. These are super desirable as well. They don't show up very often. This is a really great freight set, the 2523W, and then you've got a passenger set here too, the 2526W, okay? I didn't really put one of these on my list as a kid, but as a collector, I'm going to have to put one of these on the list. I don't know that I'm going to be able to keep them on there just because they're so expensive, but I'm going to go with the passenger set this time, okay? So this is the 2526W Super O Super Chief passenger set for $100. Okay, that is a tremendous amount of money. It eats up a ton of our budget, and I know I'm way over already, but you got to put it on the list. Again, great set. I'm not arguing with this too, but if I had to pick between the two from a collector standpoint, this is one of the ones that doesn't show up very often at all. Very nice. All right, now we get into track and transformers, and certainly none of this would be considered rare in any way. Track, same thing. But there is a little section on this page that is very interesting, and that has to do with replacement accessories, okay? This is a lot of times where, from a collector standpoint, if you go back in time, you get a lot of bang for your buck. Okay, and this is where you could buy things like the signal head or a set of logs. In our case, we're going to add to our list this number 175-50, which is a rocket for the 175 for $1. Why are we doing that? Well, when you ordered it that way, it came in its own little Ziploc bag with some instructions, and it's the packaging that actually makes this a desirable piece from a collector standpoint, and it's nice to have. This 197-75, the radar head for the 197 for $1.50 all day long. If you're a collector, you got to have one of those as a separate sale item. Let's see, boards, poles, all that's fine. Barrels, cattle, no big deal there. And then you come down to this piece right here, which is also going to make it on our list, which is the 6414-25, which is 4 autos for the 6414 for $3.50. That's going to make our list. And the reason is when you got these, you got 2 sleeves of cars, or 4 cars, in its own special little separate sale box. And from a collector, that box is what everybody needs, and it is the one that I'm going to put on my list. You got some pipes, airplane, and boat. Those are desirable, but you can find those, so they're not going to make the list unless we've got an extra $1 or $2 at the end of the day. Replacement lamps, all those individually. Yeah, the 123 lamp assortment, but for $20, there's other stuff I want to get, but that's kind of a cool piece too, but I'm going to hold it off the list currently, okay? And then we go one more page, and this is a page we didn't really explore when I was as a kid as much, but this does have some collector side of it, okay? First of all, some of these scenic pieces not necessarily need to make the list. You got some coal and grass and things like that too, and all those were readily available and easy to find, even in some of their packaging. Okay, but these pieces right here are Plasticville, but came in Lionel boxes. Okay, so because of that, there's some of these that are very, very desirable. Now, I do have some production records. We're going to talk about this a little bit too, and all of these were ordered in pretty high numbers, except for these 2 right here. So the 962 Turnpike set and the 966 Firehouse set are going to make our list because these are really cool and they're highly desired by collectors. The Turnpike set is $3 and the Firehouse set is $3.50. Okay, so we put ourselves a tremendous amount of items on our list. We are way over budget, and that's okay because the hard stuff's about to happen when we break it down. So absolutely fun. Let's see what happens in part 2. Okay, so now we've gone through this catalog and I've sort of picked out a number of items that have some collector interest to some degree, and it's a pretty good list. As a matter of fact, I kind of blew past even the space I had when I was even on doing the editing for this thing. And I've spent, or want to spend, a ridiculous $763.50. Now remember, Aunt only gave me $250, so I've got a tremendous amount of work to do. All right, so this 58 catalog, a little tougher again, just to pick out the stuff that would be like, hey, I gotta have this, or would want to have this as a collector, okay? But it also brings up a little bit of kind of, well, what does it mean to be a collector? Because this is where I'm gonna say, well, which direction I'm gonna go. If you're doing this at home, there's probably the way that you would do it. There's a way that someone else would do it. There's probably, again, a bunch of different ways that you would do this. So the angle that I'm going to take at it is saying, okay, well, I'm the collector. So it's me going back in time. So what type of a collector am I? Well, what I'm not is I'm not as much of a set collector. Okay, now I appreciate and I like sets, so I'm still going to have a few sets. I think try and keep them on there, but it's more about I'm going to go for sets maybe that have cars that are either unique or that you could only get in the set, or maybe a set that's only available from 1958 and in limited production. So there'll be a couple of those types of things too that I may kind of leave on the list. So I may make a cut on my list to bring it down to 250. It may not be something you would cut, but that's not a bad thing. It's just the way that I would do it. I'm kind of more into separate sale. I like kind of the oddball stuff, obviously. So I think I'm going to lean more towards kind of getting a nice variety of items that would be interesting to have, and would fill up my TARDIS or whatever the time travel thing I'm in. But either way, that's what I'm going to do. So you might disagree with something. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm also going to use some information that's available to me. Many years ago, some production data or orders data was found for 1957 and 1958. So because of that, there's some relative data to how many items were available in inventory or for ordered through the factory in 1958. So I can use some of that information to say, hey, this is going to be a little more desirable because they actually made these, but they made them in lower numbers than, say, a different piece. I'm going to take that into consideration. So we should have a lot of fun with this. You're going to totally disagree with everything that I do, but hey, you know what? It's called Brian's Train Room for a reason. I'm the collector. It was my aunt, $250. I'm going back in time. Let's see if I can whittle this thing down to $250, and that's coming up. So we're going to now try and revisit our catalog and figure out how can we bring ourselves down into our budget, okay? We've spent way more, almost 3 times as much money as we have, and so we're not going to be able to do that. I'm just trying to figure out how to pull this back. Been giving this a lot of thought, and so the first step, we're going to do this in 2 phases. The first is I'm just going to kind of go through and sort of lop some things off the list that are just going to just skyrocket our budget or don't really fit long-term what I want. As I mentioned, there'll be a couple sets I think I'm just going to kind of slide out of there. I think that'll bring us closer. And then in part 2 of this, I'm going to go through and then sort of hone it in and try and keep kind of what we can keep. So that said, just kind of going page by page through here, since we went through this in order. Again, there's nothing on this page. These are great sets, get that. So the first kind of that's on the list that I'm going to take off is one of these 2. Remember, I put these 2 on the list trying to buy these sort of separate sale. And the reason for that is when these come separate sale, they come in their own boxes, okay? Well, between the 2, this is one that actually came boxed in the set, so you can find it. This one right here, when it came in the set, the 611 did not come boxed, but if you ordered it separate sale, you could get it with a box. And the box in a Jersey Central in its original box, there's a couple different versions of that, is really tough. So I want to keep that one. So we're going to take the 613 off our list just right off the bat. As we go to some of the other pages, nothing here, nothing here. I'm going to leave the 625 on for now. We may not be able to keep it. We're going to leave these 2 pieces on for now too. We may have to take those off, but I think we're still good. I'm going to leave those on. The girls train, I do feel like we should keep that on the list for now too, just because of the bulk, either as a whole or also individually pieces. So this to me is something we're going to really try and hold on to personally. All right. The next is these sets. You got a little Burlington set here. We'll talk about that set. We go to the 208s, nothing there too. We're going to lean over. I think this is one of the sets that it's expensive. It's an 027 set. I love these 209s. They're absolutely awesome. But basically, these are all attainable. These are attainable as well. If we put them back on the list, I may put 209s as separate sale because the master carton's actually really tough. So currently, I'm just going to take this 1608W off the list. That saves another $65. All right. This Bud set, I think, is just fantastic. And kind of researching this is a tough set to come by. We'll see if we can keep that on our list. And this MNSL, we like it, but if at the end we can't keep it, it's not the end of the world. Let's see here. Here on this set, I again love the Timberland Special. I had put this MNSL on the list, but to be honest with you, this is a car that you can find. It's tough, it's desirable, but it's not like, there's other pieces on there. So I'm going to take this 6536 MNSL hopper off just right off the bat. That saves another $4.95. Not a ton, but it just heads us towards where we're headed to go. Nothing I think on this page necessarily. This is a fantastic page too. Again, we spent a lot of time on this page. It's a great set and does have some desirable cars. I just feel like that's a ton of money to try and keep on our list. It's $69.95. So recommendation, and I'm going to go with this, is I'm going to take this set off, okay? But as a caveat, I'm going to throw the 6556 back on as well as the 6427-60. So we're taking a set out, but we're putting 2 of the cars that you could buy for separate sale back on our list. So that's one thing we're going to look at, and I think that should also kind of help bring us back down to something more reasonable. As we go to some of the other pages here too, we start talking about having some of these engines in separate sale. I'm going to take the 736 off. It's a 736. They made it multiple years. Again, not as heavy duty of an item as some of the other items in the catalog. So I think taking the 736 LTS off the list makes a lot of sense. And that is coming in at $47.50. Again, also starting to bring us back down to a realistic number. The mainliner, pretty cool. Love this. Nothing on this page that we had looked at. Let's see, this set right here too. Again, it's a tough little set. Nothing special about the cars or the engine individually. It's just a set as a whole. We're going to leave it on for now, but this is going to be one we're going to have to take a hard look at and whether or not we keep it on the list or not. Rio Grande, there was nothing on our list from this page. And then same thing with the Virginian, nothing on our list here. And then we have to start making really the two biggest choices we have to make here, okay? All right, so at the moment, I've got the 2525 WS on the list for $100, as well as on the next page, I've got this set here, the 2526W, the Santa Fe. Now, again, as mentioned, I'm not really a set guy, so I have to look at this like, okay, well, what am I getting if I were to get these? I love the J. I think it's a great piece, love it a lot, but at the same time, all the cars and pieces in this particular set really aren't that special, okay? I mean, it's a great set as a whole, and I do like it, but at the same time, that's a lot of money, takes up a huge amount of my budget, and my really goal here is to just get a nice sort of selection of some of the really tough things to find from 1958. Remember, they made a J set for a few years, so it's not like this is the only time I would be able to get this set. So I'm going to take this off our list at $100. And I've given it a lot of thought, and I do feel like this set right here, this 2526, should also lop off. That saves another $100. And so between all of that, that should get us down to a little bit more reasonable number. We're not all the way there yet. I know I'm taking these kind of bigger sets off. To set collectors, they're going to cry foul all day long. I get it. I am going to keep a couple sets, I feel, but at the same time, these just eat up way too much of my budget. I only have $250. If I had $500, no brainer. I would absolutely have one, if not both sets on there, but I don't. So and because there's not anything necessarily special or individual about anything in these sets, it makes sense to take them off currently. So, all right, so this is sort of phase one of getting us to a more reasonable number, and then we're going to have to start making some even tougher choices. I'm going to take a look at that now, and we'll get the second part coming your way in just a sec. So this is final cut down. Let's see if we can get ourselves to 250. I've kind of given this a lot of thought, so I'll play with things a little bit. I think we got this. So let's go through this catalog real quick and kind of go through the reasons I want to keep some things and the reasons things need to go or may need to go just to keep us under budget. I don't want to lose any of it, but we still got to make these choices, okay? Again, not much necessarily on the first page or second page. And then we get to one of the first items, and we're going to keep this. This is the 611. This is a Jersey Central, which we're ordering as separate sale. The reason for that, when you ordered this separate sale, this came in a box that was specific to this piece. And for a separate sale guy or someone who likes some of the oddball stuff, this is a really, really tough piece to find. And so it's available in the catalog, let's order this. We want this, okay? All right, and it would have come in its separate sale box if you ordered it that way. The next item, so we go a page or two, all good, is this array of some of the separate sale items available, which is really neat. And we're looking at these three pieces specifically. So the 3494 625 and the 3494 550. These were carryover from 57, so they were available still in 58 last year's, but they never came in catalog sets. So because of that, that makes these very desirable from a collector standpoint, and they're nice to have. They're really cool box cars, and they're operating, so I want to leave these on the list for that reason. The other piece is this 625. This is a 44-ton switcher. Again, it's a carryover from 57, but when ordered as separate sale, these came in their own special box, just very similar to the 611. So because of that, it makes sense to order this separate sale. Very, very desirable to find it this way. When you got this in a set, it came unboxed, which makes these a little more fun to find like that. All right, so far we're keeping everything on our list, so it's hard to cut down if we don't take something off. But we're not going to take this off, okay? This is the Lady Lionel. This is the girl set. Okay, look, you got to have one of these too. And a couple reasons why. One, it's the girl set. So from a collector standpoint, it's iconic. You can see it. And so it makes sense to keep that on there. Plus, if you really look at it and break it down, you know, the engine set is different. You know, the gondola, the boxcars, the hopper, even the caboose, all are basically unique to this set. And you get them all wrapped up in one package for $49.95. We're keeping that set. All right. And then I had to really decide whether or not I was going to keep this set or not too. All right. And to be honest with you, I want to keep it for a couple of reasons. One, it's got some desirable cars. Yeah, the passenger car is nothing special, but these two are actually pretty tough. Finding a 216 in nice shape is really tricky because of the silver. And what's really unique to this set is this 6572 REA boxcar. Now, you could buy the boxcar separate sale in 1958, but if you bought it separate sale, you got a different version than what came in this set. And what do I mean by that? Okay, well, this is a passenger set, okay? And this is a freight car. So if you ordered just the freight car, there's a set of trucks that came with it. There were freight trucks. But because this is a passenger car, this particular car, when included in the set, actually had the trucks that matched these, so that didn't look like a mismatch, actually matched the trucks that you would have found on the passenger cars, which is really cool. So it makes it really a desirable piece. Now, they ordered about 3,500 of these sets, so they're not super rare, but as a combination, this is a tough set, and we're absolutely going to keep it on our list, okay? Plus, it's only $39.95. We've got a little bit of wiggle room, too. It's not a high-dollar set. So as we go along with the rest of these here, we're not changing anything. The other is this M&SL. This is the Mine Loco. I like this little Loco. It's pretty cool, and we're going to keep it too as well. It's only $12.95. We're going to keep it on the list. And then, of course, so far, we want to keep this 2502W bud set. And the reason for that, too, is they only ordered 600 of these, and it only was available. This is a 58 set. This is an absolutely cool set. It's super, super tough to come by. You just don't see them very often, and it's fairly unique and still kind of relatively reasonable. It's only $59.95. So we're going to keep some of these on the list. These are some good items, but we've got a nice little laundry list here, too. But at some point, we're going to have to cut something. All right, so as we kind of go through these pages, all those things we've kind of gone through, love keeping these. I think we're going to keep this. Definitely want to keep the Virginia caboose, and no doubt we're keeping the 119 just across the board. These are pieces that you've got to have if you're a collector. All right, so we talked about this page here, and then one of the items that's on our list, and we're going to just unfortunately have to cut it, is I was going to get a 646 separate sale. Okay, now when you order these separate sale, they come in a little master carton. Very, very desirable. Totally get it, but for the sake of our budget, we're going to have to take it off. So that saves us $47.50, bringing us down to $321.50. Still got a little work to do, but we're so much closer. All right, and then this set right here, this is the passenger set with the Penza EP5. Now, I like this set. It's really cool, and it's actually very desirable from a how many they made. My understanding is they may have only ordered about 3,500 of these sets, so it's a low ordered set for this, but it's $75 and basically comes with 3 just regular passenger cars, which are cool, but they're just regular cars, and an EP5, which you can find. So from a collector side, other than the actual set box, you can find all the components associated with this. So because of that, and that's $75, it makes sense to drop this from our list. Okay, that brings us down to $246.50. So we're under budget, which is great. Okay, all right, now I'm going to go through those last few items that we have, and some of them are more on the separate sale side, okay? All right, so on the separate sale side, we're definitely keeping the 175-50. That is just cool, and the way it comes. But this 197-75, which is the radar head for $1.50, I'm going to lop that off. And the reason for that is that brings us down to $245 even, which means that gives me actually a full $5 left to spend. All right, so I've got a little tough decision to make because I had to add something back on. And when I was flipping through the catalog, there were two items that sort of jumped out a little bit, okay? The first was this transfer table, right? Now, you can't buy the transfer table because that's $22.50, but an add-on is the 350-50 transfer table extension, which comes in its own little box, and it's $4.95. So I've got that as an option, or, okay, a little bit further along is this car right here, this piece right here, which is a complement to the 264 operating forklift platform. You can order the car, which is the 6264 lumber car, okay, all right, for $4.95, okay? So if we get that for $4.95, that brings in, this is the one I'm going to get. I'm going to get this rather than the transfer table extension, 6264 lumber car for $4.95, brings me to a grand total of $249.95, okay? Which leaves me 5 cents left over to walk out the door, grab a cold Coke out of the Coke machine because they didn't change to 10 cents until 1959, enjoy my Coke on the way to the time machine and get myself home. Absolutely fantastic. Whew, that was a lot of work. All right, guys, I think we did it. When it's all said and done, I believe I spent $249.95 on trains. That's pretty fantastic, and I got an incredible array of trains. Everything from separate sale to a few sets to a few individual cars. It just totally made sense to get, and some accessories. So it was a nice roundhouse of things. Now, you may not agree with everything that I cut off the list, or maybe you would have put something different on the list. Well, I want to hear about it. It's a personal choice. So keeping in mind that, hey, the way I collect is different than you collect. None of it's wrong, and probably none of it's right, okay? But it was a lot of fun, and it's a really tough exercise. So keep that in mind. Keeping it under 250 and really getting some awesome collectible trains is awesome. Keeping in mind, we're looking at it as a collector, not as a kid. It's a totally different sort of thing. Remember, we're looking for bang for your buck. So if you're going to spend that kind of money, you want to make sure that, hey, I want to get as much really good stuff from a collector side as I would want to get. And hopefully I try to explain a little bit of the reasonings why I chose certain items over another. The other thing I want you guys to do is tell me where you want me to go next, okay? At some point in time, I may go through the 1954 or maybe 53 catalog, as well as maybe 60 or 61, somewhere in that range. There's some really fantastic trains in either of those 2 years. Maybe I'll do both of them when it's all said and done. So let me know kind of what you want to hear next. And again, I can't thank you enough for watching. This has been a long one. I understand that, but there's so many fun things to go through and a lot of things to explain. Now, I gotta tell you, I still had 5 cents left. So I ended up buying a Coke. I just got back, popped this thing open. So this is a Coke from 1958. Yeah. So I was suspecting. Even the Cokes from 1958 are better than today. I'm so glad I went back in time and bought what I did. And again, thanks for joining me on Brian's Train Room. Have a great afternoon.
Lionel Express, all aboard. Look at her streak along the rails. It's a Lionel.